as I said, I had some bitter-sweet moments, and because after we'd won the intercollegiates in '46, we went back to Michigan the next year and played, and we did pretty well. I think we finished 4th or 5th, and then the next year, the intercollegiates were at Stanford, and I probably had the best playing year that I ever had in my life that year in '48, and I got, I guess you'd call it suspended, and they wouldn't let me play in the intercollegiates in my senior year, which really, it hurt. It hurt a lot. It was, it wasn't academic or anything like that, but that's kind of a long story.
I'd like to hear it.
Well,
if you feel like telling it.
We were playing San Jose State this one day, and it was a 36-hole match at Stanford. And you played singles in the morning and doubles in the afternoon. So I won my match handily. In fact, I beat Bobby Harris, who ironically ended up winning the intercollegiate that year at Stanford, and I beat Bobby Harris pretty bad. And I came in, and I was playing in a tournament up at Peninsula Country Club. The ironic thing about it all was that I knew that the match was supposed to be Saturday afternoon, and I was playing a ex-Stanford player, Sherman Seelix. And I don't know why or anything. I never did get into it very much, but he said he couldn't play. He didn't do anything except count his money, and he could have played any time, I think. But he said, no, we got to play Saturday afternoon. Well, I talked to Coach Twiggs, and I said, Coach, I said, we were ahead 13-5 after the morning. We needed a half a point to tie and 1 point to win in the afternoon. And I said, I'd really like to go up and play this match. I really would, because I was playing. I said, we're going to win easy here. There'll be no question about it. So he said, all right, go ahead. So I went up and I played Seelix, and I happened to beat him fairly easily again. And by the time I got back to Stanford, all our guys were down. We were getting killed. And Coach Twiggs said, if we lose this match, he said, you'll never play again at Stanford. Mm. I said, Coach, you gave me the right to go. Well, he said, I was wrong, but he said, if we lose, he said, you said that we'd win easy. Well, to make a long story short, one of the San Jose State players missed about a 10-foot of the last hole, and we won 14 points to 13. So everything was fine. I thought it was great. And the coaches heard about it, and Masters, of course, who didn't like me anyway. So they got together, and they decided that they were going to do something about it. I never played in the intercollegiate that year at Stanford. Mm-hmm. So it was tough going, as I didn't have a scholarship or anything. My dad was paying the money for me to go to school, and it wasn't a big deal in those days, but that was their decision, and I abided by it, and still tough to take.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah.
In fact, when I inducted me into the Stanford Hall of Fame, I did not go. It was during a football game, and I just said, no, I'm not going to do it. This was maybe 10 years later, or I don't know how long, but it was quite a while afterwards. And Masters was gone, and Eddie was gone, but I just said, no, I'm not going. I still think about that thing, and I don't think what they did was right. That was sort of it.
So in those years, 46, 47, 48, you graduated from Stanford in 48. Were some of the players veterans who came back from the service?
Yeah, Lambie
I
was
in college in those years, and we were fresh out of high school. I was too young for World War II. Yeah. But my freshman, sophomore year, half the freshman, sophomore class were, guys who came back from the Pacific or European theater. And
well, I believe, as I remember, I think Lambie was the only one that was in the service. I'm not sure about McCann, but I don't think that Schuler or Rosecrans or I wasn't. I'm sure Lambie was. I don't think Cardinal was, but McCann, I don't recollect whether he was. McCann was a little older, so possibly he was.
You heard some wonderful stories about some of the players on earlier teams, and Warren Daly and Bud Brownell and so on, who didn't make it back from the Brownell didn't make it back from the war.
That's right. He was a great player too, a wonderful player. And Warren Burl, there were a lot of really good players.
Amongst the players that you played against, golf is a game where you form fellowships with your opponents as well as with your teammates.
Yeah, well,
were there players that stand out that were on other teams or other tournaments that you played?
Oh yeah, I got to know a lot of the guys that turned out to be very, very good pros and everything. And two Abear brothers and Gardner Dickinson, and I think maybe the best one of them all, and never really made it as a pro, was Harvey Ward. I got to know him when he was going to North Carolina, and among the guys that played on the Pacific Coast, Bobby Gardner was at UCLA, wonderful, wonderful player, and Ted Richards, who I believe won the National Public Links, but a really good player, and a couple of guys at Cal were good, and of course the whole San Jose State team really had some good players. They were excellent players. Bobby Harris went on to become a good pro, and Warren McCarty, I think, ended up coaching San Jose State for a little while. But they were always our toughest match.
Were you a contemporary of Venturi, or was he a little later than you?
Venturi was later.
Later.
Yeah. I knew Kenny very well. Still do. I still see him, twice a week here.
You share not only golf, but golf announcing.
That's right. It was funny. We were apart we never saw each other for about 25, 28 years. Because when he went to work for CBS, he moved to Florida, and I went to work for ABC, so we'd never see each other during the different events. So I went a long time without seeing Kenny. But Kenny and his folks lived at the same place in San Francisco that my wife and I did after I got out of school, and Kenny babysat for us.
Really?
So, yeah, Kenny was a great player, great player.
So, when you were finishing at Stanford, did you know that you were going to try the tour, or was that, how did that happen?
No, that was strictly an afterthought. I really never had any intention of turning pro. I went and I got a job right out of college and in an insurance company, and I did that, and then I went to work for, after that I didn't like that very much. I went to work for Ed Lowry, who was a great disciple of the golf game. He caddied for Francis Ouimet, and Ouimet won the Open in Boston. Eddie was 10, 12 years old or something, and he owned Van Etta Motors. So, and he
in San Francisco?
Yeah, in San Francisco,
really?
And he was a great amateur player himself. So I went to work for Mr. Lowry, and after that he hired Venturi, and he hired Harvey Ward, and we had a lot of good players around there that sold cars for Mr. Lowry, and then that kind of disintegrated, and then I went to work for Bobby Roos, who played at Stanford, the Roos brothers.
Clothing stores.
Yeah, and I they were all nice guys, good jobs and stuff like that. I was making a living, but I really didn't care for it very much. And